Being a doctor is romanticized, but no one talks about the fact that most doctors are extremely dissatisfied with their jobs. There's endless stories of doctors burning out and dealing with sleep exhaustion because they have to work for countless hours on end without a break. And over half of all doctors report feeling depressed, exhausted, and have a sense of failure. I've made videos about doctors that earn over $800,000, but all that money comes at a cost to your personal life. There is no point in earning so much money if all you do is work and hate what you're doing. And if you want to become a doctor, you really have to know what you're getting yourself into and what all of your options are. Which is why today I want to focus on the medical specialties that lead to the happiest and most fulfilled doctors. Hey everyone, my name is Hisham Khan and welcome to Income Over Outcome. Now the medical specialties I'm going to talk about today have some of the best work-life balance and still pay really well. The top jobs pay over $400,000. So make sure you watch till the very end. I also have a super exciting announcement for you all. Thousands of you hop into my DMs asking me for advice in helping you get a job or choosing a major, and it wouldn't be possible for me to help all of you. So I decided to launch the website incomeoveroutcome.com. Over here I have everything you need to help grow your career, from resume templates to guides on how to interview and network, and the best part is you can even schedule personal coaching calls and workshops with me. For those of you who like reading, I'll be posting free articles on things like high-paying jobs and other career tips. I'm really excited to be able to launch this website and help you all. Most sites like this charge a bunch of money, but my goal is to make these resources accessible to everybody. So I worked with my team to make them as affordable as possible. So go ahead to incomeoveroutcome.com and let me know what you think. Now let's get into the video. This first medical specialty shouldn't come as a surprise to you. It's pediatrics. Pediatrics always ranks as one of the most fulfilling and satisfying medical specialties because you're super close to the impact that you're having on your patients. You get to oversee all aspects of a child's care from the point that they're born all the way until they're 18. One thing most people don't know is that pediatricians have to be available to take care of patients at all hours. They split their time between a normal doctor's office where they see the regular patients and a hospital where they see children who are admitted. They also have to be on call just in case an emergency happens at the hospital. So compared to some of the other specialties we'll talk about today, you might not have a ton of control over your hours, but in general, a pediatrician's work is way less intense than other doctor specialties and you work less hours. Most pediatricians average 50 hours a week, which is pretty much the same as a lot of the corporate jobs out there. But pediatricians make way more money than most people in corporate jobs, with an average salary of $209,000. In ninth place, we have another medical specialty you should be pretty familiar with: family medicine. Family medicine is one of the least stressful medical specialties with probably some of the most normal work hours. Most family medicine doctors average around 50 hours a week. 40 of that is spent seeing patients, with an additional 10 hours to do administrative stuff like paperwork. In some cases, family physicians can spend time in hospitals, but for the most part, you'll be working in a normal doctor's office, which takes away a lot of the stress of being a doctor, like being on call all the time and having to work ridiculous night hours. Like pediatricians, most family physicians say they're satisfied because they get to build relationships with their patients. And it's also one of the lower paying medical specialties. But keep in mind that low pay is relative. They still make over 4 times what the average American earns, with an average salary of $213,000. One of the best things though is the flexibility in how you can practice. You can work for a hospital organization, join an established practice, or open up your own office. The last option involves a ton more work because you're essentially opening up your own business. But when you open up your own private practice, you can make a lot more money, and eventually you'll be able to hire other physicians to work with you and give you more flexibility. Coming in 8th place is psychiatry. Now this is arguably the best job for people who are interested in psychology and having an impact on people's lives. Now psychiatrists are essentially therapists, but since they have an MD, they're able to prescribe medicine like antidepressants, and they tend to have some of the shortest work weeks compared to other doctors out there. The exact hours obviously depend on where you work. If you work for the government, it'll probably be like a normal 9 to 5. But if you work for a psychiatric hospital, they'll dictate your hours. A lot of psychiatrists though have their own practice, which means they can work whatever hours they choose. I will say though, the job isn't for everyone because you're constantly hearing other people's problems and surrounded by negativity, which can be overwhelming. But if you enjoy listening to people, don't want to work insane hours, and want to make a bag for yourself, then psychiatry might be the perfect job for you. According to a study done by Career Explorer, psychiatry ranks in the top 17% of all jobs, not just medical jobs, when it comes to happiness. And it's hard not to be happy when you earn over $236,000 or actually having an impact on people and work reasonable hours. Up next are nephrologists. I know this is a lesser known medical specialty, but nephrologists help treat conditions with the kidney and urinary systems. This is a great specialty to choose because the prevalence of chronic kidney disease is expected to rise by 27% by 2030. So the need for nephrologists is only going up. Most nephrologists see patients for around 20 minutes at a time and average 45 to 50 hours a week. Similar to pediatrics, nephrologists have the option of working in a hospital or medical office. The nephrologists with the highest pay tend to own their own practices. But overall, nephrology is the 14th highest paying medical specialty with an average salary of $260,000, and top nephrologists can earn over $400,000. In 6th place are clinical immunologists, also known as allergists. Now this is arguably the least stressful medical specialty we've talked about so far, because you don't have to deal with emergency situations at all. The name pretty much sums up what the job is. Allergists diagnose people with allergies and help them come up with a plan to minimize their allergic reactions. Most patients who see allergists are generally healthy and only have small medical problems, which makes sense. Let's say you think you have a nut allergy. You're gonna go see an allergist, they'll diagnose you, and then let you know what you should do in the case that you have a reaction. Pretty straightforward. But in the case that you do have a reaction, that allergist is probably not gonna see you. You're gonna go to an ER, and it's going to be a general physician who takes care of you. Typically, allergists just see patients in their office during normal business hours. And for these reasons, being an allergist is a great combination of low stress, low risk, and low hours, making their average salary of $261,000 well worth it. It's also well worth it for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos. I would also appreciate it if you took a second to hit that like button so you could help my channel out. Coming in 5th, we have a specialty you might not be familiar with, pathology. I like to call this the doctor's doctor. Pathologists examine lab samples to learn more about diseases and infections that patients have. They then work with doctors to help diagnose patients and come up with treatment plans. They're kind of behind the scenes, so pathology is a great specialty for those of you who like science and research and don't want a ton of patient interaction. More often than not, pathologists work over 40 hours a week, but they rank as one of the groups of physicians reporting the highest happiness and amongst the lowest groups of physicians reporting burnout. So it's obvious that their workload isn't too intense, and I'm sure the pay has something to do with their happiness because they average around $290,000. Next on the list, we have ophthalmologists. Now, as a person who wears glasses and is essentially blind, I spent 20 years getting to know eye doctors. But the eye doctor that typically comes to mind are optometrists, not ophthalmologists. See, optometrists have a doctor of optometry. They're the people that you go to for your yearly eye exams. But ophthalmologists have an actual MD. They can do everything an optometrist can do and then some. They have the ability to do eye surgeries like cataract surgery and LASIK. And most surgeries like that are scheduled ahead of time and done during normal business hours. So ophthalmologists just work in their office and they can usually set the times they want to see their patients. Overall, ophthalmology allows you to have some control over your hours. And if you go into the field, you'll earn over $300,000. Now in 3rd place is dermatology, which offers some of the best work-life balance for the pay you're getting. As you probably know, dermatologists help treat patients with skin problems. They work with patients over the course of months or even years, so they have the benefit of being able to see their impact over a long amount of time, which helps lead to their satisfaction. According to a survey, most dermatologists spent just 30 to 40 hours a week seeing patients. The majority of them average working just 45 hours a week. That's less than most high-paying corporate jobs. For dermatologists, the investment of time and money into med school is definitely worth it because they average an income of over $360,000 a year, which averages to around $160 an hour. That means dermatology has some of the highest hourly pay amongst medical specialties. Now, I know I touched on some of the harsh realities of becoming a doctor in the beginning of this video, but if it's something you're really considering, you should definitely check out my video on why becoming a doctor is not worth it, because in there, I dig deep into the realities of med school. You'll be glad you watched it, because if you get through the entire video and still want to become a doctor, then you know it's a good fit for you. But you might realize it's not something you want to do and save yourself a bunch of money and misery. But I digress. I wouldn't be surprised if you guessed the next specialty in this video, and those are anesthesiologists. Anesthesiologists are responsible for managing people's pain and putting them to sleep during surgeries. While they aren't the actual person cutting into the patient and performing the surgery, they have to be there the entire time to monitor how the patient is doing and make sure the anesthesia is working properly. I've actually shadowed anesthesiologists before, and it's insane to watch how focused they are. Some of them even manage multiple surgeries at the same exact time, jumping from operating room to operating room. Hours can be all over the place. One day you might have an 8-hour shift and the next a 12-hour shift. And although the hours are longer than the other specialties on this list, anesthesiology tends to be way less stressful than some of the other super high-paying medical specialties. And it's no secret that anesthesiologists make a ton of money, with a median salary of $400,000. That means half of the anesthesiologists in the country make more than that, which is absurd. The combination of lower than average stress with ridiculously high pay makes it no surprise that anesthesiologists are some of the happiest doctors out there. A survey done by the NIH found that 80% of anesthesiologists are super satisfied with where they're at in life. And finally, in the #1 spot is Diagnostic Radiology. Now, this specialty does involve a lot of hours because radiology is something that's done all the time. You have to be on call, work weekends, and shifts can be pretty long. But radiology made it onto this list because it tends to be way less intense than a lot of the other specialties out there. It's just not as high risk and stressful as some of the other specialties. You don't have to worry about your hand slipping in surgery and accidentally killing your patient. But the job is still super important because radiologists help diagnose what's going on with a patient with all of their fancy scanning. They also have to be ready to deal with anything that might go wrong during a radiology procedure, like blood pressure problems. But despite the long hours, over 74% of radiologists say they're satisfied with their jobs. I have a feeling that has something to do with the lower than normal stress levels, but also the insane bands that they're making. The average radiologist earns around $430,000. Let me know if you all found this video helpful, and remember to check out incomeoveroutcome.com. And if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button. Also, I make a ton of videos on doctors and medical specialties, so make sure you check them out over here. I'll see you next time, but until then, peace.